Good morning, Virginia. I'm still processing what happened 2 days ago when domestic terrorists, a mob of them, invaded the Capitol, forcing members of Congress and their staffers to evacuate to safe spaces. Staffers bravely remembering to take those electoral votes with them. And I remember the fact that I was on the Hill the last time the Capitol was evacuated. It was September 11th, 2001. We had just seen the planes hit the first building and the second building, and the first building collapsed to the ground. We got a knock on the door. I was working for Congressman Barney Frank at the time as his legislative counsel. And I remember the staffer from Martin Frost's office next door knocking on our door saying, "The Republicans have deserted the building. Get out." Apparently a half hour earlier, the Republicans had all fled. They didn't tell us about it, nor did the Capitol Police knock on our doors. But we looked out for ourselves. And once out of the building and the parking lot, I felt safe, even as I drove by a burning Pentagon. This must have been a lot more scary. Sheltering in place, behind locked doors, listening to shooting and commotion in the gallery, knowing the Capitol Police were out there undermanned. Maybe they wouldn't have known that. I don't know. But I do look at that picture in the House gallery and on the House floor with a makeshift barrier stuck in front of a thin wooden door with broken glass windows, guns drawn, as an angry mob waited outside. Honestly, it could have been a lot worse. And the mob was sent there by no less than the President of the United States, that had angrily told them they shouldn't be weak. They should fight back. Giuliani mentioned combat. Trump said he'd be marching there with them down to Capitol Hill. And then he turned around back to the White House and turned on the TV. He specifically was attacking the Vice President of the United States. Angry that Mike Pence would do what he is constitutionally and legally required to do, which is the ministerial task of opening up the electoral votes and counting them. I don't remember how many times the president told them to get Pence, but I do know that when people entered the building and the Capitol Police safely put Mike Pence away in some secure area, there were a number of people shouting, "Where's Pence? Where's Pence?" What would have happened if they'd found him? Would they have killed him? Now, I'm not a fan of Mike Pence, but I certainly don't advocate the president ordering the hit on his vice president, even if he did so unintentionally and indirectly. In fact, the whole line of succession, at least the legislative line of succession, was there locked down in the building. You had the Speaker, of course, Nancy Pelosi, third in line. You had Chuck Grassley, Senate pro tempore president, also there. There were a couple pipe bombs set. Apparently they were live, discovered. What if they'd gone off in the Capitol? A capital that had not been invaded since the War of 1812. The British were there. I saw on the news, of course, Confederate flags in the building. Robert E. Lee, Jefferson Davis fought for 4 years to raise a Confederate flag over Washington in the Capitol. They did not succeed. Trump did, though. Trump did. He told those people he loved them after the attack. Good people on both sides. Well, just the ones on his side, I guess. Thank God that the military disobeyed the commander-in-chief and listened to the vice president, who actually has no particular constitutional role to handle the military. You may recall that Mayor Bowser asked for the D.C. National Guard. Another reason D.C. needs to be a state. Every other state can call out its National Guard, but no, D.C. has to get federal permission, which was denied at first. The president apparently watching with maniac glee, so excited about the revolution he'd caused. That's from reports inside the Capitol. He was manic. He was exuberant. But the vice president, and I'm going to argue it's for patriotic reasons rather than fearing for his own safety, though it could have been a combination of both. He called the Defense Department and made sure that the D.C. National Guard would be called out from his bunker in the Capitol, where he had every right to be. I called Virginia governor, contacted his staff, asked Governor Northam to send out our National Guard, our state police, and was told the governor would be doing so. No, our president couldn't be bothered to protect the capital of the United States of America under invasion by domestic terrorists that he'd sent there, but our governor heeded the call. I understand Maryland heeded the call as well, though some of these trips arrived late. How are we to process this? Why were those people there? Yes, they were instigated by Donald Trump, no question about it. But they believed a lot of nonsense. 4 people died. Police officer just died yesterday. And that's horrible. Actually, many more, I'm sure, will die as the crowd infected one another, and probably some innocent police officers too. Today, on a day when 4,000 Americans are dying every single day, yeah, a lot of them weren't wearing masks as they congregated together to overthrow the government. And while they are not innocent people, the people they will go home to their communities to infect are. Sad day in America. So where do we go from here? How do we take this lesson and carry it on to the future? What are we to think of the woman I saw on CNN? So upset that she'd been tear gassed by the police, angry at them. The police officer asked her what was she doing. She said she was storming the Capitol. And they maced her apparently as she tried to get in the door or through a window. I forget which. The reporter asked her the next logical question, why were you storming the Capitol? And she said, revolution! Revolution. Violent overthrow of the United States government. Disrupting the peaceful transfer of power. And she's upset she got maced. And then I compare it to the Black Lives Matter protest I attended also in Washington, D.C., around a White House that was barricaded, unlike the Capitol, high walls. We peacefully demonstrated, and a lot of those peaceful demonstrators got hit with rubber bullets. I have the pictures of the welts on the legs of the people that got hit. Rubber bullets which can blind people. A helicopter flying low. Yeah. Apparently, when you march for racial justice, when you march for the simple concept that maybe black people shouldn't be mowed down by police, that maybe black Americans should be treated the same as white Americans, that yes, black lives do matter, that's considered enough to call out every military force. And we were peaceful. 99% of the Black Lives Matter protests were peaceful, and the couple that weren't were mostly fire. Not that fire's a good thing. No one should be setting fires. There was no attempt to invade the Capitol. I mention that because the people who invaded the Capitol 2 days ago seemed awfully privileged, awfully excited, woohoo, by what they were doing, even as they were preaching revolution, looking for Mike Pence, setting pipe bombs, and generally bragging about overthrowing the government. A lot of them were white supremacists, neo-Nazis. Now, Fox News is claiming some of them were Antifa. Yeah, no, not at all true. Apparently, some right-winger found an Antifa website that had a picture of neo-Nazis that Antifa was targeting, and they were there. And, well, you know how the right-wing media spreads something. By the way, I've attended so many protests in my life, I can't count. Dozens and dozens, probably over 100 now. I've never once seen or met anyone from Antifa. And these were protests for civil rights, anti-war, the kind of thing you'd think you'd find that Antifa there. I'm sure they exist somewhere. I've never met one. I don't think they're a very large movement. But I'm also reminded of a day 2 years ago now in the Virginia Capitol, sitting in my office, when we had tens of thousands of people armed with guns. Many more had guns there, I think, than had guns 2 days ago. And they were there with their guns to threaten us. We, I'm proud to say, have very good Capitol Police in Richmond, but it was a scary day. Many of you know a man came with a long gun outside my own house, outside my kitchen window, with a gun so powerful it could shoot through one window and out the other side of my house. A lot of these protesters claim to do so on the basis of the Second Amendment. They love the Second Amendment. And they will tell you that the purpose of the Second Amendment is to support violent overthrow of the United States government. They will tell you the purpose of the Second Amendment is sedition and treason. Well, they won't use those words. But what is violent overthrow of the U.S. government? Sedition, treason. I know because I've put forward a lot of gun violence prevention legislation. And I've always tried to protect people's right to self-defense, to hunt, to target practice, things like that. But the true defenders of what they think the Second Amendment is about will say, no, the Second Amendment is about Lexington and Concord. It's about violent overthrow of the government when it turns to tyranny. Couple problems with that argument, actually several. We could start with the fact that, yeah, in modern times, I'm sorry, you and your guns are not going to take on the U.S. military. Between tanks and bombs and nukes, I'm not worried that you'll win. I was not worried 2 days ago that the police and the military would not eventually take back over the United States Capitol. I was afraid of hostages, honestly. I was afraid the president might order the people to do worse. But I wasn't worried they were going to actually take on the military. The other problem with this, we need to overthrow the government idea, is that in Lexington and Concord, folks were fighting for democracy, fighting against a monarch, an authoritarian rule, even with parliament, without representation. But now we have an imperfect democracy, a republic. Ironically, the only people who really share no representation are the folks of the District of Columbia, who, by the way, saved the day. It was the DC police that came first to help the overwhelmed Capitol Police. In any case, no, you don't have a right to overthrow a democratically elected government. Because that's what a democracy is. You win some elections, you lose some elections. But when you don't accept an election loss that's been duly certified, where all the votes have been counted and recounted again on paper ballots, which I have fought for, so that we can actually count each vote, and then all the proceedings go through the courts, and all the courts reject your frivolous claims, 62 court cases, more than 90 judges, many Trump-appointed judges. When you lose an election, you concede. I've won an election or two or three. I've lost an election. It's more fun to win than to lose. But when you lose, you concede. Particularly after all the votes have been counted and recounted again. So no. No, you can't have guns to overthrow the government. When the Second Amendment says that a well-regulated militia is necessary to preserve the security of a free state, they were talking about a militia called by the government. Well-regulated. There wasn't nothing about 2 days ago that was regulated. We have well-regulated militias in the United States. They're called the National Guards. And by the time they got to the scene, they acquitted themselves well, because they were well-regulated. We've got to change the way these things are discussed. These militias, these violent, unregulated militias, are a danger to the security of a free state. They're a danger to the United States of America. They are domestic terrorist groups. Or you can just call them gangs or thugs. Words that racists generally use to describe black people. But white people with guns determined to overthrow the government are far more dangerous. I know I've gone on at length. I just wanted to share my thoughts. And I'd be curious to know your thoughts on what happened 2 days ago and your thoughts on my thoughts. I'll tell you this. For all the lies out there and anger and division, I do know a lot of it is caused by, actually most of it is whipped up by right-wing media telling lies on air. Yes, you, Fox News, and apparently some that are even worse. Perhaps the best way to tamp down the flames was when Twitter turned off the president's Twitter account. I know the dangers of right-wing media. I've tried really hard to fight them on and off the air. I think it's time we use the law. You know, the First Amendment of the United States, like the Second Amendment, cannot be used to overthrow the government. It also can't be used for defamation. I'm really glad that Dominion Systems is suing a Trump lawyer for her defamatory claim that they somehow committed fraud in Georgia. Sue away. I'm glad the woman sexually assaulted by Donald Trump is suing him for denying it. You see, you don't have complete free speech. And I've been on the internet, as I'm sure you have, and seen my Facebook page filled with ugly, ugly lies. Guess what, folks? You don't have a right to lie. You don't have a right to defame. You can express your opinion. Yes, that's the First Amendment. But you can't make false statements of fact. You can't claim a lie is true. And that's what the president's been doing a long time. I hope some others sue him for defamation. I hope that Georgia's Secretary of State sues him for defamation. I can go on and on. Let me just say this. I'm committed to fighting this nonsense. I know that Donald Trump, praise God, will be out of office in 12 days. And while I fear for those 12 days, and I support the 25th Amendment, and I support censure, impeachment, mostly just as a way to tone him down, but also as justified for what he did. think the only reason he accepted that there'll be a transition of power, an orderly one, I think he called it, is because people were threatening otherwise to force him out of office under the 25th Amendment. But I know, and you know, that Trumpism will not cease to exist when Joe Biden is president. I hope and pray it's true. I hope that this ridiculous, awful, deadly terrorist attack instigated by the President of the United States will scare away all the, or at least most of the Republican apologists for this lying, narcissistic con man. But I know it won't scare away all. And I know there'll always be conspiracy theorists. I remember them on 9/11. It's an inside job. I remember that. There are people on the left that said that. And I said, no, it wasn't. I don't like George Bush, but he did not bomb the World Trade Center. It's time for people to say, even those who like Donald Trump for whatever reason, the election was free and fair. We have to fight back hard against misinformation. One last thing, and I know I've gone on at length. I remember 20 years ago when the internet was young, and someone sent me an email, it was a family member actually, a cousin, claiming that Al Gore had done something, I think with Abu Nidal, to promote the terrorist who killed us on September 11th. Some BS claim. And it was sent to me and to 30 other people. It was passed around. I'm sure my cousin didn't make it up. I'm sure my cousin just saw it and forwarded it the way it was forwarded to him. Well, I sent an email out to all those 30 people and said, this is a lie. It's a vicious lie. It's a defamatory lie. Spreading defamation is illegal. And I want all of you to know it and also you to share the fact that this is illegal and incorrect defamation to everyone that you got this email from. My cousin was a little upset. I had called my cousin out in front of all of his friends. But it had to be done. That's how you stop misinformation. Mark Twain, I don't know if he said this, but it's said to have said that a lie can be halfway around the world while the truth is just putting on its shoes. We need to fight hard against misinformation. And whatever role I serve you, as delegate, as lieutenant governor perhaps, I guarantee you I'll be fighting hard to stop misinformation. Lies. Lies kill. Lies lead to the destruction of our democracy. Lies lead to mistrust between Americans. Lies are dangerous. I've spent my whole life trying to fight these lies. And until the day I die, I'll keep fighting them. Thank you for listening to my musings. Hope you have a good day.